Good evening, South Windsor. I'd like to call the special meeting of Monday, June 27th to order at 7 p.m. Could we have call the meeting to pledge allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That sounded beautiful, thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Evans?
Here.
Counselor Kowalski?
Here.
Counselor Lopez? Here. Counselor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton?
Present.
Deputy Mayor King? Counselor Kozakowski?
Here.
Counselor Leidecker? And Counselor Gamble.
Here.
Thank you. This evening we have a special presentation. The South Windsor Lions Club is here to present a check to the South Windsor Food and Fuel Bank, and Miss Andrea Confrancesco, Director of Human Services, if you'd like to approach the lectern with the Lions Club. Yes. Wait, hit your button, please. On the bottom, there's a. Thanks, Chief. Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Liz Pendleton, member of the Town Council. My name is Sio Dolache. I'm the president of the Lions Club. And this is Susan Gabriel. She's the vice president of Lions Club. We have been supporting and working very hard for our community for the last 61 years. This year, through the fundraiser that we had, we raised some funds, and we are here to give a portion of those funds to Town of South Windsor. We actually, one thing about the South Windsor Lions Club is 100% of the money that we collect from the public, it goes back to the public. So we have $3,900 to give to Andrea for the Town of South Windsor, $3,000. Out of that $3,900, $3,000 goes to the Food and Fuel Bank, $500 for the Teen Center, and $400 for the special needs.
Good stuff. Good picture the four of us? Do you? Good stuff.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to the mayor's remarks. First, I'd like to say thank you to the Lions Club for your generosity in helping the citizens of our community and the residents, especially with the cold years that, in the winter coming up. I'm sure that Andrea can make good use of that money. She's shaking her head yes, so I know that's true. I know I'm not lying when I say that then. I'd also like to, in my mayor's comments, mention a few things. We have the 4th of July that's coming up, so please celebrate Independence Day safely. I'd like to say a special thank you to our veterans of Independence Day that helped create our country. I myself am a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, so my family has been fighting for our country since day one, which is an awesome thing. But those are the veterans back in the creation of our country that we should honor and think about on July 4th. The other thing I'd like to mention this evening is that there is a tax credit for children that families can apply for through the state, and it's $250 per child, a tax care credit that they can get, and they need to apply. I do believe by, Andrea, do you know about this? Is it by the end of July? End of July, and then they would receive a check in August, correct? And that's $250 per child for 2 children, up to 2 children? 3 children, up to 3 children, correct. So that could be helpful for some of our residents and families within our community. And I'd also like to mention that we just had a groundbreaking ceremony over at Evergreen Walk, which is now being called the Evergreen Walk 2.0, the Promenade Shops at Evergreen Walk 2.0, the groundbreaking ceremony of Whole Foods and the Shake Shack that's going to be there. And we have a few other businesses that are coming in. So Evergreen, look for new development and excitement over at Evergreen Walk. And the other thing I'd like to say is this evening we have a public hearing at 8 o'clock, and we also have a public hearing at 8:15. So if we can move on to item number 4, which is adoption of the agenda. Councilor Kabasky.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I'll recognize you first.
Oh,
Councilor
thank you.
Gamble, go
Thank you.
ahead.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, for not bringing this forward sooner, but if you'd allow me, I'd like to add a first read to the consent agenda 11A for Rick Balboni to be placed on the Blighted Board of Appeals for a term expiring of November 2024.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble, but we can't add anything to an agenda at a special meeting. The special meeting only has, I'm sorry. Okay, that's okay. Councilor Paterna?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that we change the agenda and move the executive session 17A and B up to just after public input, simply because we have some items that we were going to discuss in public session, and we need to have this executive session first.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna. Councilor Kabasky, is there anything else that you may have?
Yes, on item 17A, I will need to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. And so there is a second on the floor. There is a change to the agenda by moving up the executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Item 6 is communications or reports from the town manager. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to actually call Mr. Stetson to come on up because we've kind of completed the Pavement for Progress program and laid out kind of the groundwork for how we can move forward with doing our pavement moving forward. And basically, at this point, we're looking at the need to start talking about implementation. And the total cost for the plan is $30 million and would bring all the town roads up to an acceptable standard. Dollar amounts of this magnitude, of course, would require a referendum, and it would be my suggestion that we seek the approval for the full amount from the residents, with the intent of not issuing it all at once, but in $5 or $6 million tranches, depending upon the way the department can actually work through it. So at our next council meeting, and we actually did so today during our agenda meeting, we did actually add an item for discussion at your next meeting, with the intent that the meeting after that would probably be some type of an action item so we can move forward with the referendum. I did have a conversation with Bonnie Armstrong today, and in order to actually hit those referendum dates to be on the November ballot, we would need to move something forward at that second meeting in July. So I don't know if Mr. Stetson has something brief to add to that, but feel free.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your time, Madam Mayor and fellow councilors. As you guys know, you drive around town, our roads aren't in a serious disrepair compared to the rest of New England, but the residents of South Windsor do expect and are due much smoother and less weathered roads. To just correct Mike's statement, you know, the $30 million will, in this moment of time, bring most of the roads up to acceptable condition, but in another 5 or 6 years, we will have to come back and ask for further funding because the roads are, just like us, aging. For me, maybe a little bit faster, but the roads, they tend to degrade at the same rate, and about every 15 years, every road needs to be repaved or have some sort of preservation technique done to it. Along with that comes sidewalks with roads. We have been getting a lot of calls. I'm not sure if any of your constituents have reached out to you, but there is a big push for more sidewalks in neighborhoods that we're planning on paving. So the $30 million isn't going to touch upon all of that. If you review the Paving for Progress plan, it has kind of a rough guideline of the roads we would like to do. Nothing's set in stone, but it's a sound plan that can, you know, bring all the roads up to grade. Do you guys have any questions that I can quickly answer? Or?
Counselors? Counselor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So thanks again. I know you gave us a presentation about this a while back, and you touched on sidewalks. What exactly, like new sidewalks, gutting existing ones? Are there plans to create new walkways for shared travel space or whatever?
So Pleasant Valley Road, for example, that is in the design process. The idea is to put sidewalks all along that. Bezelbub Road, we just opened up the bid for that last week. Sidewalks is a portion of that, and it's easier said than done to put in sidewalks because you need to get easements from every resident in order to connect everything, and it's just very, very time consuming. And that would be also very beneficial to know that we have this resource of money to go and put forth the effort to start the process of getting these easements, knowing that the money is on the horizon to make the projects happen.
Was one follow-up question. So the plan you put together, I've forgotten. Did you use an outside consultant to help with the plan of this, and they sort of created this alongside with you?
Yeah, so for the past couple decades, we've been working with VHB for our pavement management program.
Okay.
And they are the key element into putting the program together. We gave them the concept and a lot of the content to stitch it all together and kind of steer them on which neighborhoods we wanted to do first and how we wanted to propose it to all you guys or present it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Campbell. Counselor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Vince, thanks very much for the planning and the development of this project. I would say to you, and it's just a comment, not a question, I'm glad to see that we're looking at new sidewalks as well as repair of old sidewalks. I would say the top 3 topics in terms of emails that I receive, sidewalks are right there. And one of the issues that I see is sidewalks related to close by school locations so that parents can walk their kids to the school building. So thank you very much for this plan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And we wish that, we could pick up the phone and say, yeah, you want sidewalks on Birch Hill Road, I think was the one that came through last week because they want to interconnect all the schools. But that's $1 million, and we just don't have the funding to put that together. So thank you for that.
Counselor Evans?
Thank you. As well as Councilor Paterno, I often hear about sidewalks as a concern. 2 areas that, the schools is definitely a huge one, and seeing last year, Ellington Road, a lot of families walk to the Pleasant Valley School, so I'm hoping that is high on the list. Another recently that I've been contacted about a few times is Dart Hill, so I'm not sure if that is where that might fall on the list, but that's one that has definitely been expressed a concern. And this is maybe outside of sidewalks a little, maybe more of crosswalks, but I know that there was an incident at Eli Terry School recently with a student that was almost struck by a car. And I was just wondering if there's been any progress on getting a crossing guard or a crosswalk put in there. Perhaps that's more the town manager then.
Yeah, in terms of a crossing guard, that would be on the Board of Ed side, so I'm not sure what they've done or not done at this point. In terms of a crosswalk in that area, I'm not aware that they've made a request to the Legal Traffic Authority yet for anything of that nature, so if there is somebody that's looking to have something like that happen, it would be good to have them send something into my office and we can certainly address it.
To my knowledge, they have put in a request or some discussions have been had, so I'll follow up and find out and make sure.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have a few questions concerning the $30 million. We did have a referendum years back for our roads, did we not? 2016, was it?
So 2018, you had a $15 million referendum, $9 million of it went to road, so that's 2018. And then 2021, we had $5 million for roads, specifically Bezelbub and Pleasant Valley, and that's the design for both those roads and the construction for Bezelbub Road, which came in about $2.3 million. So if you do the math, we're right on par for the amount of work that we can complete with the staff that we have, and it's about $5 million per year. And that includes drainage upgrades along with the road work.
So once the roads are completed with the drainage and the upgrades and everything else, to maintain those, let's say the $30 million gets us the peak roads in town and every single road and we're all good. What is the maintenance care plan after that? How is that going to work?
So without going too far down the rabbit hole, South Windsor is a very old town, and a lot of the roads that we're all driving on now weren't built to current engineering standards. So the pavement's very thin, maybe 2 inches, and then 50 years of chip seal on top of it, and underneath all that you have sand. We can't just mill that road out and repave it like a typical mill and overlay. So you have to redesign the whole road, replace all the base, and that's why it's very, very costly. As opposed to other towns which have, don't have the same history and kind of grew up real recently, they can get away with about $2 million a year to do, 10 miles of just milling 2 inches off and repaving it. So just in a very short comment, that's why it's so expensive. In another 6 years, we'll be asking for more money because the roads that are now 15 years old will be 21 years old. And they're just, they wear in the sun, they dry out. We have more and more traffic in town.
So I know that we have a replacement schedule on vehicles within our community with the police department and the fire trucks. Do we have a repair, replace type road
Oh, yeah.
schedule?
Absolutely.
That's, okay.
Yep. And this
Okay.
is just a process of having that funded.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Just to move on through the rest of my report, I had the opportunity to attend the groundbreaking for Whole Foods this week. It was exciting to hear about all the future plans that Charter Realty has in store for Evergreen Walk. The groundbreaking of Whole Foods is really the kickoff of many of those changes. New tenants include, as the mayor said, Shake Shack, Whole Foods, Goddard School, and Lovesack. The principal of Charter Realty mentioned that they have many more announcements to come over the summer months. It's my understanding that the demo of Sakura Gardens is supposed to start the week of July 5th, and there's significant infrastructure that's going to be occurring in that area, specifically related to utilities. So as a result, it might take a little bit longer for Whole Foods to actually get built in that area than you might imagine, but it is in the works. And then lastly, Shake Shack construction is currently started, and they're expecting to be open by the new year, barring any supply chain issues. Additionally, I think it's also important to note in terms of Evergreen Walk, there is a housing proposal at Planning and Zoning that's coming up for tomorrow night for, I think it's about 165 units, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. Also, there's a proposal from Skinnell that's been submitted to build a 241,000 square foot facility on Kennedy Road. It's going to be heard by Planning and Zoning tomorrow night. It is my understanding that this project is being proposed to be built on spec. One issue we have been looking at amongst the town staff is the condition of Kennedy Road due to FedEx and the potential for another industrial user on that road. There may be a requirement to make the improvements to Kennedy Road as a result. This may become an issue on the planning and zoning application and is something that we will need to be able to address whether the project moves forward or not, potentially. So we'll have to see how that all works out. Also, I wanted to bring to your attention that a lot of the staff over the last couple months have participated in a voluntary Narcan and CPR training. I was really pleased to see the number of employees that have participated in that, and we've been doing that over a longer period of time, and we've seen that actually pay off in the instance where a number of our staff were involved in saving somebody in one of our parking lots. So I'm very pleased that so many people did decide to participate. A couple other items that I didn't get onto the written report because they're important for today. First of all, today was our first day of summer camp. We had over 230 campers, even though the weather didn't really participate. I think everything I've heard, it went off pretty well, and the reports that I got at home was they had a lot of fun. So, also, just wanted to let everybody know that Beelzebub Road is currently under construction from Eversource Gas. We've been having a number of meetings and conversations, Mr. Stetson and myself, in an effort to try to push them along. We've noticed that they've been kind of dragging their feet a little bit. That is what is holding up our repavement of Beelzebub at this point. Today I received a report from Eversource that they've got plans in place on how to handle that, and hopefully it'll fit within our schedule. We are watching it very closely, and we'll be pushing them very hard to make sure that we do meet those deadlines so it causes as minimal impact to the residents of that area as possible. And then lastly, I just wanted to remind the council that we have our police department awards ceremony tomorrow night at 6:30. Review of RSVP'd, and look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions for our town manager? Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So that award ceremony is at the high school tomorrow?
Yes, it's my understanding it's at the high school.
All right, thanks. That's not my question, but
I thought I got away easy.
so this is so I want to just go take these in the order that your report was. So paving for progress. This is probably mixing apples and oranges, but asking for $30 million is a big ask, and I feel like, are there other capital projects that are worthy of being referendumed as well? I mean, I feel like, is this going to push other ones down, different pot of money? I feel like there's like always a large list of capital projects that we never seem to get to, and if we bond them, would that clear off some of the backlog as well? I mean, has that ever been considered?
So I think when you look at bonding, I think you want to look at bonding for larger projects because there are financing costs associated with that. So there's kind of an economy of scale associated with it when you do go out to bond. It may make sense to look at a couple different projects, but from a standpoint of capital projects and moving things along in our infrastructure and everything else, our largest piece of infrastructure in town is our roads. And municipalities typically make a decision as to how they plan to fund them. They either pay as you go, in which case you put a set dollar amount into capital every year, and then that amount of money is put back in every year and used to maintain and regenerate our roads, or it's through a financed position where they're going out to bond in larger tranches because it makes more sense, and then they're doing that work over a series of time. The town of South Windsor made the decision many years ago, way before myself or any of us here, to finance their road construction moving forward. So that's kind of the way this has always been done. With the progress of the department on the previously financed projects, they're starting to get to the end of that barrel that's already there. So in order to keep the progress moving for roads, and we saw what can happen if we don't do that through the Pavement for Progress presentation, in order to keep that progress moving forward, we need to put some more resources back into that barrel so they could keep moving in terms of making our largest asset, maintaining it and making it better in a lot of instances.
Right. I mean, I'm not questioning that. It's just the backlog of capital projects that always seem to the list grows and grows and grows, and we don't seem to knock any off the top and as fast as it grows. So that was my question on that.
Just past experience with capital projects, it's always a huge list.
All right.
And it's,
fair enough.
We have enough capital and infrastructure out there that we will always have other projects to add to that list.
So I wanted to just touch on the Whole Foods. I was unfortunately not able to make the groundbreaking. I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Planning and Zoning who put a lot of work into getting that approved and that plan approved in there. And it would have been nice if they could have been there to share in that moment as well. I know that they really enjoyed seeing that come to fruition.
Yeah, I have heard from a couple of people who were concerned that they were not invited to the groundbreaking event. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that was a private event that was hosted by and put together by Charter Realty. It wasn't put together by the town. It wasn't hosted by the town.
Good to know.
I think it would have been a little impolite if we had nosed our way in and said you need to invite some other people. So
fair enough. So in this, and then I'll use this forum then to again, just recognize Planning and Zoning for their efforts for the Whole Foods.
Correct.
Moving on. Can you give this is not on your report, but can you give an update on their revaluation timeline for residential properties? Is that still slated for starting in October?
You know what, let me get something from the assessor for you for your next meeting. That way we could make sure that.
Sure.
Dates.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What about before I forget, I would just want to commend the town staff for volunteering their time to get CPR trained and Narcan trained. I mean, I hope they never have to use it, but having that confidence that they will be able to know what to do if the time comes. I think that was really important for them to do, and I really appreciate their effort in taking their own personal time to do that. So thank you to your staff for doing that. And then lastly, what is the status on textile recycling? Are we going to restart that again soon?
I don't know, I'll have to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That concludes my questions. Thanks,
Does anyone else, Councilor Paterno?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second Councilor Gamble's suggestion that we should be thanking the staff for going through the Narcan and CPR training. That was incredible to have the number of people participate, so thank you for that. Mr. Maniscalco, a couple of weeks ago, we had a group of residents here at the council meeting to talk about the sewer plant and most likely the inability of the biofilters to accommodate the volume. And I'm wondering, are there any ARPA funds that might be available to help that project? I know they went to WPCA also, but their budget is also very tight, so is there any room anywhere else that we could
Yeah, I do
help?
know that the WPCA and the superintendent from the plant are working together, and the director over there are working together with all of them to put together a plan for how they're going to move that forward. I haven't heard 100% what the path forward is yet, but I do know that they're working on getting things together. So in terms of ARPA funds, if we do have additional funds left over at the end of our projects, we certainly will be happy to try to move some of those forward to help out at the plant. I think, as we all know, with inflation, it's a little challenging right now to do any capital projects.
Right.
Between supply chain issues and inflation, it's putting a strain on getting a lot of those done.
Yes, okay, well, thank you, appreciate it.
Is there any other questions from councilors? For Mr. Maniscalco. Mr. Maniscalco, I'd just like to say, while attending the Whole Foods, I like to share with the staff that Charter Realty more than once, probably 3 or 4 times, came up to me and said, your staff is phenomenal. Your staff is so easy to work with and so accommodating and so helpful. So with our boards and commissions, with EDC, with everyone, with planning and zoning, with our staff, I just want to pass on the compliment from Charter Realty on the development of Whole Foods and pass that on to you guys. Thank you. And that's it, I guess. We now have public input, item number 7. Is there any residents that would like to speak with public input on the agenda? We have public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by me, shall approach the lectern and give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive of any person, and the speakers may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come and speak in the public input section on our agenda? Going once. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive.
Hit your microphone, please. Not hit it,
Pretty loud.
turn it on.
Hi, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. Great to see South Windsor PD here. Although given the majority's propensity to act based on their members' single expressed concerns, wondering if a FOIA is actually in order to see if there's a reason that they're here today. On a related note, kind of hesitated with this one, but after listening to Councilor Gamble's suggested amendment to 11A on the consent agenda, first reading, there's a consent agenda on the first reading, and looking through the town council rules and procedures, the specific section says that, give me a second to pull it up. I'll summarize, something to the extent that you can't add something that's not already on the agenda. First reading's on the agenda. So again, my hypothetical FOIA request, wondering if it's potentially relevant to bring together a FOIA to see if, in fact, this was suggested at the agenda planning meeting and the majority shot it down. And then lastly, item 13C, resolution regarding employee retentions. I'll be honest, it seems a little tone deaf in light of item 13G, the mayor's annual salary bump seems a little tone deaf in light of 13C, needing more money to retain employees. It seems that there's a tone that's set at the top. And if we're losing a lot of employees, maybe we do need to take a look inward and see why. And hopefully those discussions were considered by whatever committee was set aside to discuss the mayor's annual salary. Excuse me, town manager. Thank you.
Thank you. You threw me for a minute. Mayor's annual salary. Okay. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak and public input on any item on the agenda? Any other people, citizens, residents would like to speak, staff, or anyone with the items on the agenda, concerning items on the agenda? Not seeing any, we will be moving into executive session. Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd move we move into executive session, item 17A and B. Be resolved that before I read, I'm going to include the Assistant Town Manager, Vanessa Perry, Town Manager, Michael Maniscalco, and Assistant Town Manager, Scott Roberts.
And if you could read 17A, please, and what 17B is, please.
So the executive session is to discuss possible purchase of real estate for the town pursuant to General Statutes 1-210B7, Raymond Burden Development Rights, 1871 Main Street and 221 Ferry Lane, and B, to discuss strategy and negotiations regarding retention of all employees.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not seeing any, we'll be moving into executive session. We will be back out here for an 8 o'clock public hearing if we're not out sooner. Thank you. Oh, sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. What am I saying? Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. we suspended the executive session so we can return to our regular meeting. We have a public hearing here at 8 o'clock to receive citizen input on the transfer of $21,370 from the capital non-reoccurring account, and then we have one at 8:15 for the local bid ordinance. So Clerk of the Council, if you could please. Catherine?
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, June 17th, 2022, legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Monday, June 27th, 2022 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Ave, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the transfer of $21,370 from capital non-recurring account to the VMP and Trax fire alarm projects. Dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, this 17th day of June 2022, tested to by Catherine Senerth, Executive Assistant.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in this public hearing concerning the transfer of the money? Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Going for a third time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in the public hearing concerning the transfer of the $21,370? Not seeing anyone, we're going to close the public hearing, and at this time we'll take a straw vote for the citizens to, all those in favor of the transfer of the funds, please raise your hand. And anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Thank you, and we'll close that public hearing. Okay. And then at 8:15, we have another public hearing. So until that time, we can take a recess. Yes, take a recess. Go back in? You want to go back in? We won't have much time. I know. Take an 8-minute recess, because that won't give us enough time back in there. I'm sorry? Sure, we can do the adoption of the minutes. Councilor Erica Evans.
Adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of June 6, 2022.
Is there any discussion concerning the minutes, additions, completions, or I'm sorry, corrections concerning the minutes? Not seeing any. No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain and an abstention. Roll call, please.
Councilor Evans?
Yes?
Councilor Lydecker? Yes. Councilor Gamble? Yes. Councilor Lopez?
Abstaining.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King? Councilor Kabowski?
Yes.
Councilor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So we have 7 yeses, 1 abstention.
Thank you. The motion carries. Okay. And moving on, any communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council? Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I wanted to just share that the Town of South Windsor, through the Human Relations Commission, held the first Race Amity Day celebration on June 12th, 2022. And I do have a letter, official statement from Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysowicz, as well as a proclamation from the governor recognizing Race Amity Day in South Windsor and thanking us for holding this event. It was very successful, and they even had a Ben & Jerry's truck came by for some free ice cream. We had some poetry and performances. It was a really nice event, and it's something that HRC plans to continue in the future. It was also in collaboration with the Council for Interreligious Understanding and the CT Coalition for Race Amity. Additionally, HRC is sponsoring, I believe all the councilors received in their packet this paper, the LGBTQ+ panel event on June 28th at 6:30 p.m. at the library. It's a panel discussion on queer community examining current obstacles and solutions. All are welcome. Then there are a number of speakers, including our own representative, Jeff Curry, as well as Mel, I don't know who these are, Mel Codner, Regina Dighton, Diana Lombardi, Robin McHalen and Reverend Aaron Miller. So hopefully everyone will be able to join. And shall I give these to you, Madam Mayor, the proclamation
Certainly,
letters?
if we can just give to Catherine,
Sure, absolutely.
that'd be great, thank you. Thank you, Counselor Evans. Is there anything else for you to report? You're all good? Counselor Paterna, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to report on the Economic Development Commission. Since we have an item on our agenda tonight about the local bid ordinance, and we should have a letter in your packet from the EDC, and they are requesting or recommending two changes. One would be to have a sliding scale for the percentages based on the bidding, and the other is to allow someone, a business where the owner lives in South Windsor, to also be eligible for this, even if the business is not directly in South Windsor. So just want us all to be aware of that, so as we get to that discussion, we have their input. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paterna. Anyone else have any reports? Counselor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to piggyback off Councilor Paterna's comments. I will be prepared to address the EDC's recommendations when we take it to as an agenda item. I want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission met on June 14th, and they held a public hearing, actually two public hearings related to the proposed warehouse building on Kennedy Road and Sullivan Avenue. First public hearing was regarding a modification to Kennedy Road, and the second one was for the warehouse building itself. The public hearing will be continued to tomorrow, as reported in the town manager's report. And also tomorrow, they'll be continuing a public hearing for the housing development proposed at Evergreen Walk, also reported by the town manager. Thank you for stealing my thunder. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other reports from counselors? Okay, moving on to the reports from committees. Does anyone have a report that's on a committee and have a report from there? Okay, I do. The Personnel Committee met last Wednesday. We are going to keep open the opening for the Clerk of the Council for another 3 weeks. I do believe it's been 3 weeks that we extended it, correct? And I'd like to announce too with that, so we're gonna wait another 3 weeks, see how many applications that we get in, that if anyone from our boards and commissions or anyone from the public needs to get a hold of the council, it would be Catherine Sennett that you would be contacting. She will be doing the agenda for our meetings and also any coordination between the residents and the citizens. And then we also have Lisa Giroux, who is going to be doing our minutes. So I wanted to just update everyone on that. And then moving on, I'm looking at the Nassau time. Okay, moving on. Okay, 11A, none, B, none, C, none, 12, unfinished business, none. New business, a discussion item appropriation. That would be Councilor Lydecker with Mr. Clay Majors, a facility director, to be present.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Discussion item, appropriation of $413,000 of LoCIP funds to cover costs associated with the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof replacement.
And this is a discussion item, so I'd like to have Mr. Majors come forward, if he could please, to give us a presentation on the $413,000 of LoCIP funds. If you could, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So this roof has been on the capital project list for a little while now. We do have enough money to replace the roof. We have $413,000 exactly. The bids came in at $399, so we have a little money for contingency if something happens, which is great. We did use the Omnia contract, which is a purchasing co-op, to go out to bid for this project. We solicited 3 contractors, 2 came back, $399 was the low, and we'd like to move forward with that sometime this fall.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Clay Majors concerning the LoCIP funds? We will be setting a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on this that he has requested. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 13B, and that's the resolution setting the time and the place for the roof replacement. And that would be Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution setting a time and place to receive citizen input on the appropriation of $413,000 of LoSiP funds to cover costs associated with the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof replacement.
Is there a second?
I need to do the resolve part.
What?
I got to read the actual resolve. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Go ahead.
hesitated too long.
I thought that's what you did. I'm sorry.
Be
Go ahead.
it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, July 18th, 2022 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the proposed appropriation of $413,000 of LoSiP funds to cover costs associated with the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof replacement.
Okay, now is there a second? Thank you. Okay. Is there any discussion? Counselor Gamble, any discussion? No, not seeing any? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. And then we need to wait on 17C, since we are still in the executive session. So we have 3 minutes before we start our next public hearing. So if you'd like to take, does anyone want to take a 3-minute recess? Absolutely. A 3-minute recess. He's already out the door. Yes, a 3-minute recess. Thank you.
Want a motion?
A motion to take a 3-minute recess?
Motion to take a 3-minute recess.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? Okay, the motion carries. We're in recess. Okay, it's 8:15. I'd like to call our second public hearing to order. Catherine Stenoth, please.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, June 17th, 2022, legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Monday, June 27th, 2022 at 8:15 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Ave, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the amendments to Section 2-530, the local preference bid ordinance, which is on file in the town clerk's office. Dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, the 17th day of June 2022, attested to by Catherine Stenoth, Executive Assistant.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak at the public hearing here this evening concerning the local bid preference? Is there anyone that would like to speak? That's twice, going 3 times. Is there anyone that would like to speak concerning the public hearing? Okay, and normally at the end of the public hearing, we do a straw poll. Anyone in favor of the local bid preference ordinance, raise your hand. And anyone against it, please raise your hand. Thank you, and the public hearing is now closed, and we will resume back to our regular meeting, at which we will need to go back into executive session, and we shall return. So we're going to make a motion, please, to resume back into executive session.
Motion to resume executive session?
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any? Okay, and that's where we'll be. We'll be back. Okay, thank you for being patient. I'd like to go back to the special town council meeting, now that we're out of executive session. And we are on item 13C, resolution for employee retention and funding plan. Whereas the town council recognizes and appreciates the hard work and dedication of town staff for the residents of South Windsor. Whereas the town council recognizes the value of knowledge and experience brought by current staff. Whereas due to inflation and a lack of qualified workforce from the pandemic, the town is finding that many of its positions are no longer market competitive, resulting in difficulty recruiting qualified staff. Whereas the town council desires to retain employees in an effort to keep them from taking positions in other towns, posing a possible impediment to providing services to the residents of South Windsor. Whereas the Human Resources Department has conducted salary surveys of surrounding and like communities and found the majority of the town positions are paid significantly lower than similar positions in surrounding communities. Whereas the Finance Department has developed and proposed a funding plan for said salary recommendations based on conservative revenue budgeting, tax sales, and collection enforcement. Now therefore be it resolved, the town council approves a provided salary benefit recommendation from Human Resources and directs town manager Michael Maniscalco to implement said recommendations effective July 1, 2022. Furthermore, be it resolved, the town council commits $600,000 from undesignated fund balance to committed fund balance used as salary contingency throughout fiscal year 2023 to account for the salary adjustments and fringe costs. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion, please? Councilor Kubowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to talk about the fact that over the past weekend, going into last week, had conversations with 3 different residents who knew we were losing staff, and the main reason seemed to be salary. And all 3, I was surprised, spoke in favor of working with the staff to kind of get them on par so we're not continuously losing people, knowing the costs involved when you have to bring new folks in. So I think there seems to be a little bit of support for this out in the public.
Thank you. Any other councilors' comments? Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to thank our Assistant Town Manager and Director of Human Resources, Vanessa Perry, for doing such a thorough job in looking at salary comparisons in surrounding towns, in similar sized towns. And it's obvious to us that we have been below the standard salary, and the value of our employees is important to us. And I hope we will all support this tonight and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors with comments? I'd like to say that I'm absolutely in favor of this salary benefits package here. I support wholeheartedly our town staff. I always have and I always will. I was a municipal employee at one point, and I understand what it's like to be a municipal employee. But the services that we provide our residents and our businesses with this community from our exemplary staff is well renowned throughout our region. And it is our staff that gets us through and makes this town a great place to live, work, and play. And you guys are awesome. And I just want to say thank you from all the town council. And we totally appreciate you. And please know that we too do appreciate you. Thank you. Mr. Gamble, any questions? I'm sorry, I just had to ask. Sorry. Okay. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Not seeing any, and the motion carries. Thank you, and moving on to item 13.
Madam Mayor, just to our town staff who are here tonight, thank you so much for all the great work you do for us.
And moving on to item 13D, Councilor Evans.
Thank you. Discussion on the boards and commissions recordings review. I'd like to invite our Assistant Town Manager, Scott Roberts, up to join us, just to provide a little history to bringing some boards and commissions online, just because I know that there are some new members of the council who were not on when we did bring this resolution and start this back in December 2019. In an effort for transparency, for individuals to be able to go back and access records, the plan was to start with 2 large commissions. and bring them on board for video recording. We've had additional ones. The plan was to have additional ones, and I believe we even came up with a list. The mayor at the time, Mayor Paterna, had asked me to come up with a list to kind of figure out how we would roll these out and bring them on board. And that was right around March 2020, when everyone went online. So there's kind of this thought out there that this was done because of COVID. This was something we actually started prior to COVID in an effort to really provide to the town to be able to see how meetings are happening, who's talking, and have a good record of these meetings for boards and commissions. So the idea with bringing this forward is to look at how we might continue this, or if this is something we want to reconsider. I know the logistics of it are something that myself and Mr. Roberts have talked about quite a bit. So I don't know if you want to go through some of the challenges with that, or if anyone has questions about like the history piece of it as well.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. We have had some challenges in the past. This all started many, many moons ago with Rich Boudreau and the team downstairs in facilities, and it worked out really well because we always had somebody from facilities here in the evening, Barry Scanlon or Chris Gargano, and they were able to take time off from their night activities to film the council meeting. And that worked very well. And then with the passing of Rich Boudreau, the responsibility of filming came over to IT because it came more IT-centric and it only made sense. We didn't have that jumbo camera that we put on our shoulder with a VHS tape anymore. We had all this IP technology working, so it only made sense to do that. And initially, when we were doing only the council, it wasn't so bad. We could always make adjustments with people's schedule and activities during the day to be able to take care of the, every 2 Mondays to do council meetings. But now, with moving to 4 committees, being the Town Council, Planning and Zoning, Park and Rec, and WPCA, it is starting to the point where our union employees, if they hit a certain level of 41 hours, they get hour for hour off within the week of the work. Well, if we start to do more and more meetings, that's just meaning that the IT staff will be less and less during the week to be able to service our employees. So we did look into trying to get some volunteers. In today's world, getting volunteers, I think everybody can attest, is very difficult. People are very busy with all kinds of activities, and to be able to step up and volunteer from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night is somewhat difficult. We did get a couple younger professionals in the high school that were interested, but then with the laws and everything and the insurance, they had to have their parent accompany them at night to be in the meetings, and that's where it fell short. The parent was like, oh, you can't do this on your own? No, we're not going to do it. So a couple of our volunteers stepped back. So we've looked at a couple options. One of the things that we did was outfit the Madden Room because there was some concern with some of our boards and commissions that they didn't want to be up here conducting their meetings because it wasn't really conducive to the type of work they did. They liked that horseshoe being a brainstorming back and forth. So we got a state grant and we put the equipment down there. So we do now have a second room that we can film in the Madden Room, but it still takes an operator. We did look into one piece of technology, artificial intelligence, to do like, one push button, but then the problem came up to, well, we want to stream it at the same time live that evening. Well, that technology doesn't really work. If you hit the button to press record like an audio recorder down in the Madden Room, with a video recorder, it'll record, but then it would have to be posted by an administrative assistant or somebody the next morning. So then it wouldn't be real live. You couldn't get it out on the Cox channel that evening so that people could be watching it from home while it was happening. Now, there is a company called Swagit that we looked into, and they do fully remote hosted recordings. So you have to buy their equipment, they install their equipment into your recording areas, and then they have remote operators like drone operators in California that'll actually record your meetings and do everything that our personnel here will do. The only problem is that's probably a little bit too high for our budget. It's $40,000 for equipment and $42,000 a year for 10 meetings a month. That's probably a little bit above what I think we want to spend for this kind of service. So I'd like to get a small group together. I think this group and this audience would be a little hard, but I would like to see if we get a small group and throw some ideas back and forth and try to figure out what the council and other boards and commissions would probably tolerate in terms of costs and or options to record. Because I think some of the boards and commissions meet earlier in the day, and Eric and I were looking at some of them. We could probably swing them in, especially on the Monday nights when we're here till 7. You know, we could set them up, get them recording in a certain room, and then be able to do that without really impacting the labor force that we have in IT. So I'd like to sit down and talk to you guys to kind of figure out where you feel about this and then how we roll it forward.
There were a lot of options that we talked about, a lot of ideas we kind of threw around that, you know, I think it would be important to kind of discuss through and look further into. So that's where the small group might make sense rather than taking up the full council's time to look into this. I know myself, I often get that notification on social media that a certain meeting is starting, and I can go on and I can watch it right then and there, and I think it's such a great asset to our town to have that. So in my opinion, I think we should continue to move forward with this, and I think it's important to have the council's support for that.
One other thing that I thought of is that traditionally we've always done the audio recordings. Has anybody gone and listened to an audio recording that you know no one at the meeting? They are extremely difficult to follow, especially when somebody doesn't say, you know, as the chair, I recognize, you know, Councilor Gamble. And then Councilor Gamble says, thank you, Madam Chair, I'll speak. Because then you have no idea. You just hear people talking back and forth. It is very hard to follow the meeting. And I can tell you, having these, you never know when you need them, right? You don't know when you want to do the research. But when you do want to do the research, it's really nice to be able to go back in that archive and go back 2 years and watch that meeting to understand the history and where that thing came from. So for me, Monday night TV doesn't really exist because most of the time we're here, but I certainly have some shows that I like to watch on Monday night. I just watch them Tuesday because I can watch them on recordings.
And everyone was given a copy of this resolution from December 18, 2019 on your table, on your spot tonight. And this was always the plan to continue to move this forward. It's something that got sidetracked because of COVID and the pandemic. It's kind of nice because these boards and commissions have had the opportunity to experience being on a video and being recorded in a different way. So it actually might make it easier in some sense to move forward.
Any councilors have any questions, comments? Mr. Roberts, thank you, and Councilor Evans, thank you for bringing this forward. I will say, yes, we did go through the challenges of getting the grant with the money and getting the money to upgrade the Madden room with the ultimate goal of recording all the boards and commissions when they meet. That was the game plan initially. We did pass this resolution that does speak about the Park and Rec Commission, and the reason why this is also on here is because the Park and Rec Commission at their last meeting made a motion to go back to Wapping School. And we've said, no, you have to be here and you have to be filmed. So I know Mr. Lewis, the chair of the Park and Rec, has contacted me concerning that, but this is our resolution that we have put down. They feel that they're part of the park department, so they want to be in the parks building, but the park department's going to be leaving there and going to Orchard Hills. So they should, it's also open transparency and it's also open government to have our boards and commissions meeting here. And if someone works evenings and they can't watch the board and commission meeting taking place, they get out of work at 11 o'clock at night, they come home, they're still watching, you know, they want to watch what's going on because they missed the meeting. They're still awake at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You know, sometimes it's when I'm catching up with some of these. So it's important and imperative for us to continue with that open government and the transparent government. And as you said, an audio is not something that you can follow, especially when you don't know who the members are on that board and commission. You don't know who's speaking or even who the public is coming and who they may be. So I think this is important for us to move forward with, to come up with a game plan to figure out something. So Mr. Roberts, do you have any recommendations on that?
As far as recommendations on how to come forward?
On going forward with whatever small committee that you were referring to?
Yeah, I would like to see if we had membership from both parties as well as, you know, an odd number, so that if we do vote, we actually get to a successful vote. But I would love to have a chance to sit down and show them, have a demonstration with Swaggit, see if that's something we really want to go in the direction of, and then, you know, bring that back to the council with a recommendation from this small group to say, this is where we think we need to go to keep this transparency in filming going forward.
So basically, you're asking for a temporary committee to be formed?
Yeah, 1 or 2 meetings. I don't think we need to drag this out any long period of time. I think this can be solved pretty quickly in a couple meetings.
Right. So we can form a temporary committee to do an IT discussions. IT, what would you like to call it?
We can do it an IT review and
IT
analysis.
review? IT recording review. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, so.
If I may, can we get a
Counselor Evans.
Can we get a consensus from the council, just to make sure that everyone's on board with this before we move forward?
Oh, sure. Can we get a consensus on the council on an IT recording review committee? Okay, so now we need a motion to make a temporary committee, please, for an IT review committee. Counselor Evans.
I'd like to make a motion to form a temporary IT review committee.
With the members from each party, or two Democrats and one Republican, please?
With members, 2 from the Democrat Party and 1 from the Republican Party.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor?
I have a comment.
Discussion?
I'd like to modify, motion to modify that motion and change it from majority party to minority party, from Democrat to
Oh, got you,
Republican to
majority and minority, got you, thank you. That's much kinder wording, thank you. Any other discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries, so there's your temporary committee, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you very much.
And before you leave, I'd like to ask if there's any volunteers that would like to serve on this temporary committee, which is a temporary subcommittee of the council. Is there anyone that would like to serve? Counselor Evans?
I'm willing to be a part of the committee.
Okay. Cesar? Since you're in IT, yes? Okay. Cesar? Counselor Lopez? Counselor Gamble?
I'll serve on it as well.
Thank you. So there's your team.
Great, and I'll
And we'll
reach out.
see you at 2 meetings after you guys do your review.
Appreciate that. I'll reach out to everybody through email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We now have 13E, resolution transferring $21,370 from the capital non-recurring account, and that is Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution transferring $21,370 from the capital non-recurring account to the VMP and Tracks Fire Alarm Projects. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the transfer of $21,370 from the capital non-recurring account to the VMP and Tracks Fire Alarm Projects.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Fire Marshal, could you come forward, please, for a second? Sorry. Since you're the main man of this. Yeah. Can you give us a little upgrade? I know that we had spoken about this as $21,370 to upgrade the projects. There is no change in this price or anything like that that needs to be looked at, or any hold up on any of the parts, or where we stand with this?
No, with our contractor Venture, we're pretty confident on this price.
Okay. And there wouldn't be any holdup on the project due to any transportation of any of the pieces or anything?
They have not advised us on that. Any
Okay.
problems getting the equipment.
So when do you expect this project to be completed?
So when this transfer is completed, finance will probably take a week or so to set up the accounts. Plus, we're at the end of, I'll cut the POs in July, and I'll update the town manager with their projected dates, and we'll get back to, he'll report back to you.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Oh, you have a comment? Oh, you're just saying aye. Okay, gotcha. Any opposed? Wait, you don't count. Wait, the vote doesn't count. Don't confuse me. It's a rough night. And I'm kidding. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And now we're moving on to 13F, which Deputy Mayor King is not here, so this is going to Councilor Evans, please.
Thank you. Resolution recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday for the town of South Windsor employees. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Jubilee Day and Emancipation Day, commemorates the day in 1965 when news of the Emancipation Proclamation reached Galveston, Texas. one of the most remote parts of the Confederacy. And whereas, according to reports from 1865, Union troops marched through Galveston on June 19th, announcing that in accordance with the Emancipation, all slaves were free, causing celebrations to break out in Galveston. And whereas Juneteenth celebrates our country's continuous fight to provide an equitable existence for all those who call the United States home, and whereas collectively our community is looking to acknowledge and work to remedy the complicated and often sordid history of the United States, and whereas Juneteenth serves as a reminder of the historical injustices which are still affecting our society today and our need to combat inequality, and inequity in a multitude of different ways. And whereas our community is still affected by the legacy of policies which were created to impede the accumulation of wealth, limit educational opportunities, uphold unfair criminal justice practices, and create our current system of institutional racism. And whereas June 19th has become the day to recognize and commemorate the end of slavery in the United States, and whereas the efforts have been made at the state and federal level to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday for more than 25 years, and whereas in June 2021, the United States Congress approved a bipartisan bill to approve Juneteenth as a federal holiday, with a unanimous vote of the U.S. Senate and nearly unanimous vote in the U.S. House of Representatives. And a bill was signed into law by President Biden on June 17, 2021. And whereas the Connecticut State Senate on May 3, 2022, passed SB 350, 35-1, an act of establishing Juneteenth Independence Day as a legal holiday. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of South Windsor recognizes June 19th or Juneteenth as an official holiday for the town of South Windsor employees to commemorate and celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. And be it finally resolved that June 19th shall be a paid holiday for all town of South Windsor employees effective June 19th, 2023. When June 19 falls on a Saturday, the holiday shall be observed the preceding Friday. When June 19 falls on a Sunday, the holiday shall be observed on the following Monday.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Questions? Councilor Evans?
I just wanted to really thank Deputy Mayor King for bringing this forward. I really appreciate its recognition, and I know that he was very sorry that he was not able to be here tonight to read and present this himself. So thank you, Deputy Mayor King.
Absolutely. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. I'm moving on. We are now on 13G. Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution approving an annual salary for Town Manager Michael Maniscalco for fiscal year 2022-2023. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves an annual salary increase of 2.25% for fiscal year 2022-2023 for the Town Manager, Mr. Michael Maniscalco.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. You're welcome. 13H. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco, for the hard work that you do. We appreciate you. And thank you. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, where are we? 13H. Oh, that's me. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Okay, resolution approving a mayoral appointment of Mr. Michael LeBlanc to the Greater Hartford Transit District, since we had an opening from Ms. Snyder from stepping down from there. So be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council approves a mayoral appointment of Michael LeBlanc to the Greater Hartford Transit District for a term ending December 12, 2024. I didn't think mayoral appointments needed a motion. I think it's just an appointment. They don't need a motion. Does anybody know? Michael, do you know? A mayoral appointment doesn't need a motion, but I'd like to.
It doesn't need a motion, but, you know, if you guys are willing to vote on it, and
Sure.
it doesn't hurt for the record.
Sure, for a paper trail?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any? Thank you for understanding, everyone. Okay, and now we're on item 14A. Councilor Kozakowski, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. 14A, resolution adopting the proposed amendment to section 2-530, the local preference bid ordinance. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby adopts the proposed amendment to section 2-530, the local preference bid ordinance shown in Exhibit A.
Is there any discussion concerning this? Councilor Kozakowski, just a minute, please. May I ask, we don't have an Exhibit A attached to our agenda, so I'd like to make everyone aware that the town attorney revision, this would be it. Catherine?
Yeah, it was in your packet. It should have been in your packet.
Yeah, that's what I have. The one that says 52622 across it, correct? That's being counted as Exhibit A? Okay, because it doesn't say Exhibit A on it. I just wanted to make,
Mine did.
oh, how come mine doesn't? Sorry. Mine doesn't. I'm special. It's okay. I got it. All right, I can write it. I know how to write. Go ahead, Councilor Kozakowski. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking this up one more time. As referenced earlier in the meeting from Councilor Paterna, this proposal was reviewed by the Economic Development Commission, and if you may indulge me, I just want to read a letter that was submitted on behalf of the commission into the record. June 27th, 2022, to the Town Council regarding local preference bid ordinance. Council members, please be advised that the Town of South Windsor Economic Development Commission, at its regular meeting on June 22nd, 2022, unanimously approved the ordinance concept, and that the commission would like a sliding scale of 3 to 10% based on the value of the project, to benefit all bidders, and that the option is extended to principals of firms that live in town, and was unanimously approved. Sincerely, Paul Burnham, Vice Chairman, Economic Development Commission. So I believe that everybody received a copy of that letter. So
Absolutely. Thank you for reading that.
From the Economic Development Commission, there's two things that they wanted to be addressed. First is, I'll do the second one first. They suggested an amendment to the ordinance extending the bid preference to individuals that live in town but operate their firm or locate their firm in a different town. And I don't know if Mr. Maniscalco, you want to comment on just kind of how that discussion went?
Yeah, I think there was maybe one or two individuals in the Economic Development Commission that thought that would be that would allow us to solicit some additional proposals for that. But I personally see it a little bit counterintuitive to a local bidder ordinance. I know myself and Councilor Kozakowski talked about this a little bit, that really what we're trying to do is promote local businesses that operate and run within the town and pay taxes in the town. Just because the principal or CEO of a business happens to live in our town, while we appreciate them living here and them paying taxes here, their business isn't exactly doing that. So I personally see it a little counterintuitive to the local ordinance. There were a couple people at the EDC. I can't say it was across the board, but there were a few that spoke in favor of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And I just want to reiterate, or not reiterate, but agree with the town manager on his interpretation. So I just would, respectfully not follow that recommendation. But with the first recommendation that was proposed by the Economic Development Commission regarding a sliding scale of a bid preference of 3% to 10% based on the value of the project, I think that's a good idea. In the research that was conducted by the town manager and his team, they did identify some communities that did that, and in my further research, I found the same. And the city that I work for does have a sliding scale too, and public Public Works Director where I work, and he says that it works fine. So I would be amenable to amending the language to address the sliding scale. That said, I asked the town manager to kind of help look at what a sliding scale would look like, and if I may pass out some suggested numbers here. Keep looking at myself. And thank you.
Do you have a spot within the ordinance that you want to change? Are you there yet, or no?
Yeah, so
So we can all keep up with you.
yeah, so what, just, I want to go over the sliding scale just for a little bit. And also, I think this addresses some of the comments that I've received from other counselors. It really addresses the 10%, whether 10% is the right number, and if it creates disincentive, you know, at the higher levels. And so I think this kind of is a good compromise. So looking at what you have before you, if we're looking at bids from, it says 0 here, but I think the baseline is 5,000 based on the proposed ordinance. 5,000 to 4,000, I'm sorry, 5,000 to $49,999. Any bid within 10% of the maximum at that value could qualify for local preference. Moving down, any average bid between 50,000 and 50,000 to 99,999, it would be an 8% eligibility. 100,000 to 299,999 would be a 6% match eligibility. Bids at between 300,000 and 499,999 would be a 4% match, and then anything above $500,000 would be a 3%, which would match the existing bid value, bid preference value in the ordinance as it stands today. So there's a couple of ways to doing this, and I think we can rely on the town manager to help make it work, but I can offer a suggestion is adding a section 9 to this ordinance, which would be this sliding scale, and having that referenced anywhere in place of where it mentions 10%, but if you have a better idea.
Yeah, I was actually thinking under paragraph 2A, it actually says more than 10% lower than the highest bid, because that's the main 10% one. I don't believe it says that anywhere else in here. My thought was you could just take that 10% out and we'll just replace that with the sliding scale.
1A also has more than the 10% in it.
Yeah, it's in
Okay,
1A
so
twice and then 2A twice.
Gotcha. So we could just replace both spots with that sliding scale.
With the text as shown here?
As shown there.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's fine.
And I think that would be the easiest way to show it.
So you would incorporate the scale just in the paragraph?
Yep.
Yeah. So this actually, if you don't mind, may I? Just speaking of this actual scale is going to be reflected within the paragraph itself, so we don't have to create a number 9.
Yeah, that's
what I was going to ask, if it was going to be attached or included, or...
Yeah, I would include it directly within the paragraph. That way there's no question as to trying to find it somewhere else or what is it referencing.
And there's no gray area, it's spelled out specific, great.
Yeah, anywhere where it says 10%, we're going to replace that with that actual scale.
So just one point of clarification, where the first line it says 0 to 49,999, it would actually be 5,000 to 49,999 because that's where the preference starts.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So with that one modification. So I'd like to amend my motion.
I think, so you have a motion on the floor, right?
Yeah.
So then
It's a friendly
somebody would
amendment.
make an amendment.
We're going to let Councilor Paterno make a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Kozakowski, if you let me, I'll do so wherever the 10%, my amendment will be wherever the 10% figure is noted in the legislation, we will put the sliding scale in there. So there are two or three places. So that would be the amendment. We're just replacing the 10%.
That's acceptable. Yep.
Right.
Can I just make a suggestion, since this is an ordinance, rather than doing it as a friendly amendment, let's actually do it as a formal amendment to the ordinance. That way there's a vote and it's all on the record, and
Okay,
if that's okay? 'Cause
so go ahead, make the motion. Do we do his motion first and wrap it up, or do we do?
well, no, you have
But
his
I-
motion that's sitting there, so
my-
you make your motion to amend it, and then Merrick will second that, and
Okay,
then
go
you
ahead.
vote that,
And more
and then you
discussion?
vote the final.
As amended, go ahead and make the motion.
So the motion is to amend the resolution to include the sliding scale chart each time the 10% number is reflected in the narrative.
I accept that
No,
motion.
no, I have to ask for a second, because that's a motion, it's okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Can I? You can't do your second. Somebody else second the sliding scale within the paragraph of the ordinance. Okay, and is there any discussion on that motion to include the sliding scale within the paragraphs of the ordinance? That's going to be reflected, instead of just saying 10%, the scale here, the sliding scale will be reflected within the paragraphs. Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure I'm at the right point of the motion discussion, but I will just ask, thank you very much for all your hard work and exhaustive efforts on this. I know that it keeps coming back, but it is well worth the effort you put in. So is there I'll just ask you, is there a situation in which a bidder might bid higher to get the lower percentage if they know this sliding scale? If they say, oh, well, if it's, why would I say $299.99? I'll just go up another $1 to get me to the next level, and then it would be a 4%, local bid preference. So will they be playing with these numbers to save themselves, a bidder to not have to compete against?
Correct me if I'm, or do you want to address it? Or
No, go ahead, you can give it a shot, or I can.
All right, let me take a whack at it. So, I think, so this value wouldn't be the lower or higher value. They would have, the winning bid would be one of these values. So let's say, we're going out, for a job to build, widgets for Parks and Rec. And the lowest bid is $301,000, but the local guy is within 4% of that, so $299,000. The winning bid would be that the winning value would be set at that 301.
Exactly, which is my point, because he could do it for $299, but he's like, why would I? Because then that brings in 6% of a shot of somebody getting it.
It would be the winning bid would have to be at $299.
Yes.
But they don't know what each other person.
But we don't know what.
So whatever the lowest, remember, it's always the lowest qualified bid, no matter what, whether you're local or not local. But if you are a local bidder and you're within whatever the appropriate percentage is on that scale, then you have to match that lowest qualified bid.
No, I understand. I may am not explaining it right. It's fine.
Okay.
So the intent of this scale is not to influence what the bids are. It just creates the net of bids that could qualify under the preference.
All right. I'll just say it one last time, and then I'll move on, because I'm
Okay,
okay with it.
except-
So if the vendor A bids $299.99, 6% of that is I'm going to say $12,000 or $18,000. And so if somebody bid, $315, a local bidder, they would get it because that's within the 6%. But if this person had bid $300,000 and that person, vendor B, had bid $315, that person's not going to get it now because it's now a 4% discrepancy.
Can I attempt to answer that?
True, but it's also, all the bids are typically sealed, so
They don't know what
you'd be
each other's
gambling
bidding.
big time.
You're right.
You right? You wouldn't know for sure, because it's a sealed bidding process. I mean, you'd really be rolling the dice.
Right. Counselor Evans?
So I understand Counselor Gamble's question, and I did the math, the percentages. So if someone knew that they wanted to bid $300,000 instead of $299,000, because they wanted to narrow their competition, is what you're saying, right? The percentage for the 300,000 at 4% is 14,000 to 19,000. At the 6%, there's still an overlap. It goes up to 18,000. For 299, 6% of 299 is 18,000. So you're not really eliminating the competition. You're
And you
still,
don't know
those people would still be included
Yeah.
because of that percentage spread.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a teacher.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor and we have a second, and all those in favor to accept the modification to the paragraphs? Aye? Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. And now we will go on to approving the motion from Councilor Kozakowski to accept the revised ordinance with the amended resolution. So there was a second on the floor with that, I believe? Mr. Kamaski? Okay. So is there any discussion on that motion, which is the main motion that is in our agenda? Not seeing any? I'm sorry?
May I think this is going to go in a positive direction, I hope. Before that happens, I just want to thank the town manager.
Thanks for the warning.
Thank the town manager and the town attorney for their assistance in this, and also fellow councilors for their review of it, and I appreciate the effort on everybody here, and it's exciting for this opportunity to make things a little bit better for South Windsor businesses. Thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski, I'd like to say thank you for compromise, because you were a little stuck in the mud there on the 10%, but I'm glad you worked with us with the suggestions and you worked out a compromise, and I really appreciate that and taking consideration of what we have said. So that makes me smile, because I was more at the 3-5% kind of range, and thanks for the compromise. So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. We now have public input on any matter. Item 15. Public input for any matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern and give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging improper motive in any person. The speaker may speak to the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any matter, please? Good evening, Ms. Stelnicki.
Good evening. I'm here to request once again, not only verbally, but now I am making this request in writing. At the past two council meetings, I had requested from the mayor and town manager where it is written that the mayor has the authority to deny appointments to be added to the agenda. For the town manager to not answer a question from a member of the public is very disappointing to me, even if it is a verbal request. I guess it needs to be in writing, so I am doing that now. With the mayor taking it upon herself to deny appointments to be added to the agenda is authoritarian. The minority party has submitted the required forms to the clerk of the council in a timely manner, but the mayor keeps denying these appointments to be added to the agenda. There should have been a first read on tonight's agenda for 2 appointments. So I'm also submitting to the town manager another FOIA request for any and all communications held on June 20th, 2020. Just like in the old Soviet Union, where people disappeared to be heard from, never to be heard from again, I am not going to disappear, and I will be heard. Open government should be a right enjoyed by all in our great town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stelnicki. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak this evening on any item that's not on the agenda? Asking again, anyone from the public that would like to speak on any items that are not on the agenda? And going 3 times now, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Not seeing any, we will move on to communications from the council. Is there any communications from the council for any of for Mr. Maniscalco or each other, anything? I just have a question, if I may. Mr. Roberts, and forgive me, and I want to recall, I believe it's back last year with, I believe last year, we had Frontier that was supposed to be hooking up the town hall or something like that, because I know tonight we discussed the recording options, and I know we do have on Cox Cable a channel that we can be seen on. We used to have Frontier also. Where are we with that process of Frontier fixing what's happening here? And I know our last report was that they were waiting on some parts or something, or is that, am I forgetting something?
No, you're not forgetting anything. Their old antiquated system that Frontier purchased from AT&T wasn't compatible to be able to take the feed. My understanding is they're upgrading it, but it's a PEG offering, which is a non-paid offering. As you know, Frontier is working really hard to rebuild their infrastructure here in the state of Connecticut, running fiber and everything. So I think we're just against competing interests. The company's trying to get their infrastructure up and make it a profitable company, because as you know, Frontier was struggling in the state of Connecticut for a while. I'll reach back out, but they are supposed to be working on that PEG channel.
Please, if you could reach out to them and just bring it forward to the subcommittee so we can get a report on that when you guys come back.
Yep, no problem.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you. And that's all the communications I have. And moving on, we have executive session, which we have already done. So we'll now move on to adjournment, please. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Paterno, is there a second? And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Good night, everyone, and be safe and enjoy the holiday.